What do you think of that proposition, that we should be like Norway, but we're going backwards?
Well, Norway is also a socialist country.
True.
Not the hard left socialism that we have in this country, but it's a socialist country. So they managed to do it. What hasn't helped our GDP per person is immigration. So the country's GDP increases, but per person it is actually decreased, and the opportunities got less. Norway does have immigration, but doesn't have the massive immigration we've had. And Norway's governments, no matter what colour over the years, have stuck to the same policy. We are having policy changes every second Thursday, and it is very, very hard to think long term. It's very hard to borrow money long term because the lenders are uncertain of the way our politicians are going to go. And we also have a massive bureaucracy. I'm not so sure how big the bureaucracy is in Oslo, but I think per person we've got to have the biggest bureaucracy in the world. And that costs us money. These people have to demonstrate they're trying to do something. I've seen these people. I used to work with the Australian Research Council. In those days, we had first-class air travel on domestic flights in Australia. People would travel first class. It was someone else's money. They didn't care. And the absolute waste that comes out of the bureaucracy is enormous. The other day, I was having a quiet chat with Warren Mundine, who used to work in various bureaucratic organisations in Canberra. He was saying, look, once you work within these organisations, you can just see the absolute waste that happens. So my solution to that is a very simple one, is to have our bureaucrats in contact with those people that they deal with. So you'd put the Department of Infrastructure at Rabbit Flat in the Northern Territory. Why? Because there's no infrastructure there. You'd put the Department of Climate maybe right in the centre of the current cyclone in North Queensland, or at a bracing climate such as in Queenstown in Tasmania. You'd put the Department of the Treasury at Gladstone. That's where we generate wealth. You'd put Department of Finance at Port Hedland. That's where we generate wealth. You would put Department of Ageing in a community where there's a lot of old people, such as Broken Hill. You'd put the Department of Water at Wilcannia, and once every 10 years they might see some water coming down the Darling. So I would totally spread the bureaucracy out. You'd put the Department of Aboriginal Affairs at Fitzroy Crossing, and that's when they would really see what the Aboriginal issues are. So I would actually decentralise our bureaucracy. That would serve two purposes. Many people are so pressured that they wouldn't live in rural Australia, and they would resign. And those that would live there and would make decisions and pass on advice to ministers would actually have experience dealing with their farmers every day. If you're the Department of Agriculture at, say, St George's in Queensland, every time you go down the street, you meet a farmer, and they'll let you know, and you will see it in your community. So this is, for me, the ideal way of reducing the bureaucracy and getting better decision-making.
But in addition to an enormous bureaucracy, we also now send a lot of work out to consultants in the big accounting firms and so on. What would you do with all these extra people? They're not counted as part of the public service, but they are armies. They are armies of people, and they are very well paid.
Well, this is a scam. My late brother used to work in the bureaucracy in Canberra and then went out on his own with a consulting company, and basically was his mates in the bureaucracy giving him work. And he made a lot of money. And I think if you have a bureaucracy of people who are meant to be trained, who are meant to know their stuff, you have no need for consultants. You have no need whatsoever. There was once a day when the civil service were highly educated people, and without fear or favour, they would give advice, and that advice was based on knowledge and experience. We don't have those people now. They're basically churning pieces of paper from one to the other. And if you can say that we've received outside advice that this is the policy we should have, then you abrogate responsibility. And if you abrogate responsibility, why do you get paid? Especially, why do you get paid so much? Some of these bureaucrats are earning $1 million a year. Now, they're not in a position where shareholders can vote them out of their position. They're not in a position where if something goes wrong, they go to jail. They just keep trundling on and using OPM. And the whole concept is other people's money with no responsibility and no consequences.